are the peace in my troubled sea. Whoa, you are the peace in my troubled sea.
Well, hello, 7th Street Baptist Church and all our friends of 7th Street Baptist Church. I'm coming to you. It's Monday, July 6th. I'm filming this for the 7th, for Tuesday. And I really hope, as you're watching this on Tuesday, I really hope you're having a great day. And I am wearing a mask only because of my allergies and not because of COVID out here. So, but I only have one announcement to make, and actually I have two things. First of all, today we mourn the loss of a very good Southern man. He was a kind man, he was an artist, and he was a man that if you watched his early days, he was a wild musician, and then he became saved or got his life right with Christ, and then he changed his lyrics up so they weren't cussing. And I'm talking about Charlie Daniels. And anyway, my hat's off to him and his legend, and my hat's off to his family. But hey, I do have one good announcement to make. If you're like me and you're finding it hard to watch stuff on TV and just bored out of your mind with some of the stupid reality TV shows out there, I mean, they're having cupcake wars. Come on, man. Well, if you're like me, I just want to tell you something. I'm going to give you something that I never thought I would have told you. But go to the Hallmark Channel. They got Christmas in July, and I'm telling you, it's the best stuff on television right now. So there, now you know what I know. You know, a lot's happened in the world since last time I came to you, which was earlier today, but I'm going to say let's go back to Friday. You know, it seems that the presidential 4th of July rally at Mount Rushmore, boy, it made a big effect. They were taunting it as racism because it was there, and they were taunting it as dangerous for COVID-19, the whole 9 yards. And not that President Trump cares about what the press says about him. I understand that. But here's what I would do if I was their campaign. This is all they have to do. So if you see him, you tell him Kicker McWilliams said this. All he needs to do is call it a freedom protest against the establishment. That's all he has to do. Doesn't have to say what establishment, but he's just against the establishment, and burn a few foreign flags while he's at it. I mean, get some flags and burn them to the ground. And I mean, do some hollering and screaming, and you know what? I can guarantee you, number one, they'll either give him a free pass like they do everybody else, or the issue won't be social distancing and the spread of COVID-19 no more, will it? No, sir. I can guarantee you the press will get upset that if you burn a foreign country's flag, but they'll hail you as a hero if you burn an American flag. In the words of old Uncle Joe Biden, come on, man. Listen. We need to lighten up. Now, I'm just joking about that. I would never, ever suggest anybody go out and destroy anything, burn anything, or do any kind of protest that requires burning anything, or cause any kind of civil unrest. But the truth is, our fake news does. And I was just trying to make a point. You know, Merle Haggard had a song that I used to love, and it's very applicable for today's time. It's called You're Running Down the Fight Inside of Me, or You're Walking on the Fight Inside of Me. And he talks about if you're running down my country, you know, you're walking on the fight inside of me, and if you don't love it, leave it. Leave it. That's some good advice. Listen, I just want you to know today we're going to look at something a little bit different than what we've done in the past. We just finished all the warning signs of Christ's return, are the ones we wanted to cover. But today we're going to look at judging others under grace, okay? Because I'm going to just tell you right now, we live in a world that we've got to back off, and I'm talking to me. Sometimes I get so dogmatic about one store doing this and anybody going into that store, and we've got to back off. We've got to chill out a little bit. The Bible says in Luke 6:37, Christ said, "Judge not lest you be judged. In the manner you judge, you will be judged." Okay? So we see clearly here with this command, Jesus warned about passing judgment upon others because he said you'll be judged in the same manner. So this verse, though, does not negate the fact that we're to judge people by their fruit, if they're true followers of Christ or not. That's not what he's saying here. Because, friends, that is a judgment. For me to look and make a decision on if you're bearing fruit for Christ or not is a judgment. Let's make no mistake about that. That's two separate issues. But what Jesus is warning here is that only God can judge the intent of a man's heart, not you or me. But it is easy. It is easy for us to see faults in other people and not in ourselves. And that's what the warning is. Which brings me to today's lesson. What I want to call, it's either you can call it the principle, but I call it the doctrine of shambles. And I want to direct your attention to 1 Corinthians 10, starting in verse 20 and 21, which I'm not going to read for the sake of time. But according to this, we see very carefully here, Paul says he don't want you to be participants with demons. This is all an issue about what to eat and what you can't eat. And when you drop down to verse 25, 1 Corinthians 10, verse 25 and 26, which you really need to read the whole chapter. But Paul says, eat whatever is sold in the meat market without raising any question on the ground of conscience. For the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. See, the issue at hand was eating meat that had possibly been offered to idols in idol worship. Now, what would happen after they did their ceremony and they had their burnt offerings to idols? They would take what we would call barbecue, and they would take what they didn't use and they would take it to the meat markets and sell it. And the meat markets would buy it and then sell it for a price. And the meat markets in that day, the Greek word for them is makelon. And it means a place where meat and other articles were sold. Translated through some Latin gibberish, you want to know the truth, it's shambles in the English. Hence what this bubblegum theologian calls the doctrine of shambles. So, now, I just want you to understand the bottom line, we are never allowed to have fellowship with demons and worshiping of demons and idol worshipers. Never. To partake at the Lord's table and at the table of the demons is no with God. Never, ever, 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 no sir, ain't gonna happen. But Paul's very clear here. Meat sold in meat markets was permitted to eat. And this is what he's saying. Because some of it, not all of it, might have come from the demon sacrifice. So he basically says, ask no question for conscience sake. In other words, what you don't know is good for you, Paul's saying. And the truth is, Paul's pointing out in this passage a doctrine that the Jews preached for years. And it's found in Psalms 24, verse 1. And it says, and that is the earth, and everything in it belongs to the Lord. So what Paul's saying is this meat belongs to the Lord. And you can eat it. That's all he's saying, folks. And the principle here is clear. It's for us not to become a stumbling block to unbelievers. When you look at what he keeps going on and saying, he says, don't ask where it come from. This will prevent a debate about it. And if you will just not ask, it won't bother you. But if somebody says to you, this was offered to idols, then you don't eat it. Because the reason they're probably saying that to you is they're sensitive to it and they think it's wrong and they're going to see if you're compromising. And it's very clear God never wants us to be a stumbling block. So don't eat it. For the sake of conscience, not just yours, but mainly for theirs. So Paul gave us a lot to swallow here. If yes, we can eat the meat with a clear conscience, then do it. Without offending someone else's conscience, then do it. But if you can't, don't be a stumbling block. Now, Jesus said, it's very important we get this in Matthew 15, verse 11. He said, it's not what goes in the mouth that defiles a man, it's what comes out. So it's more important about what comes out of a man, out of our heart, than it is what we eat and take in. And Paul is picking up on that principle. Now, what's the takeaway for us? Well, let's say today you decide you want to buy a new truck, and you go and pick out a Ford or a Chevy or a Dodge or a Toyota, whatever you want to get. You might even want a Nissan, God help you. But anyway, let's say you go get a truck. And that company you're buying that truck from, you know what? They support other organizations and stuff. When you buy that truck, you're not buying it to support those other organizations. You're buying that truck because you want a pickup truck. Am I right? It's the same thing here. Just go buy the truck and don't get in a debate about the company. Listen, I drive a Ford, and I'm sure there's a lot of things Ford supports that I'm against, but that ain't the issue. I just went down there and I bought me a pickup truck. That's what we did. So listen, this goes for shoes, this goes for department stores, for restaurants, for sporting organization, for clotheslines. This goes for everything it's applied to. The list goes on and on. Now, as an American, yes, I have the right to say I'm not going to support that organization because of the stand they take on an issue. I'm not going to name it, but there's one store I won't go into because of the stand they took on guns, blaming the gun for something that a person did. But that's me. But I'm not going to get mad at you if you go. That's your business, and the doctrine of Shambles applies here. So listen, I have a list of stores and department stores and organizations I won't go to and buy from, and news channels I won't watch, but that's me. And grace does not allow me to push that on you. We got to be very clear here, and we need to chill out a little bit in this area. We really do. So lighten up and start being more about what we're about than more of what we're against. That's what we really need to do, Christian people. Now, if someone or something needs to be condemned, confronted from the pulpit, let the pastor do it. But we need to lighten up across the board. Just lighten up. And the truth is, if you really want to know the truth, if we dig hard enough in any organization or in any item, any clothesline, we're going to find something we're not for. That's just the truth. And you know what? I don't know about you, but I have no desire to make my own soap. I have no desire to make my own clothes. I have no desire to make my own shoes. So unless I have to, I don't want to. You hear me? Come on, man. You hear me? Listen, folks, this is Pastor Kicker coming to you with a simple doctrine, the doctrine of Shambles. Lighten up, for conscience sake, lighten up and live a little bit. I want to remind you, be mindful of others' conscience, though. Be mindful. Don't be a stumbling block. Be careful about pushing your preferences on someone else. And chill out a little bit. Just chill out a little. There's enough going on in the world with COVID and civil unrest. We do need to have a little bit of grace toward one another. And as always, remember this, please. God's got this. Amen? God's got this. So with that said, coming to you from my back porch, July 6th. I don't even know what time it is. I'm not wearing a watch, but if I would, it would be on this hand, which is my left, but to you, it's my right. And this is Pastor Kicker, and I am out.